Hey everyone, this is Krista Bontrager, and today I'm asking the question, is cultural Christianity helpful or harmful? Over the last couple of decades, the rise of what's called the new atheism has really gotten a lot of powerful public voice talking about how Christianity isn't just wrong. It's not just something that's okay if people have as a private religion. It's actually harmful and bad for the world. But it seems like the tide is kind of turning because now even atheists seem to be changing their minds. There seems to be a growing recognition that in order to keep the culture that we love, we have to recognize its roots in the historic Christian worldview. This video was making the rounds on social media of two NFL teams coming together to pray before the game. This has led a lot of people to ask, seeing situations like this, is America experiencing some kind of return to God, return to Christianity? Now, not each and every football player here probably is a born again, Bible believing Christian where um, they've put their full faith, hope, and confidence in Jesus. But this is the kind of thing that we might call an expression of cultural Christianity. And I have to tell you, in all candor, it wasn't too long ago where I was very down on the idea of cultural Christianity. I didn't think it was a helpful idea. I didn't think it was a good idea. I thought it was a confusing idea because it kind of sends a message to people who aren't truly saved. They haven't placed their faith, hope, and confidence in Jesus, that maybe they're a Christian or maybe they're closer to God than they realize. However, I think that there is some value to cultural Christianity. I've kind of changed my mind about this. The events of recent years have played a role in me changing some of my thoughts about that. Let's look at this clip from Richard Dawkins, a very well-known and prominent atheist, no friend of the Christian faith, what he has to say about his belief system.
And what would be your Easter message? I mean, I've said a few things. What would you tell the nation?
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that we are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian. I'm not a believer, but there's a distinction between being a believing Christian and being a cultural Christian. And so, I love hymns and Christmas carols, and um, I sort of feel at home in the Christian ethos. I feel that we are a Christian country in that sense.
I never thought I would live to see the day when Richard Dawkins says something like this, but I actually went back in YouTube, and this is something that he has been saying for over a decade now, of calling himself a cultural Christian and recognizing that England is a Christian nation and saying, I like hymns more than I have a preference for certain Muslim practices. I'm not for jihad. I'm not for taking women captive as sex slaves. I actually prefer going to lessons and carols at Christmas time over whatever these other worldviews are practicing. And that has really, I think, uh, it makes me pause that there is some value to understanding a Christian culture. In fact, Twitter personality Zuby, if you don't know who Zuby is, he is a big Twitter personality, and he had this to say about a year ago. I don't think I've ever said this publicly and directly, but I think the West is absolutely screwed if it loses Christianity. Explaining this in full would require an entire book. Yes, it would. And there are books about that, Mr. Zuby. But I've thought about it a lot over the years and reached this conclusion. It's like removing the foundations of a building, but pridefully expecting it to remain standing forever, all while enemies, both inside and outside, are trying to knock the building over. And then look who comments on this. Mr. Elon Musk. He says, I think you're probably right. Now, Elon has quite a lot of peculiar views. He's even explored whether or not this is all kind of some kind of simulation that we're living in. He is a man whose worldview I think is trying to change. I think he's on an evolution. I hope he finds the real Lord Jesus Christ. But even an agnostic or atheist like Elon Musk is recognizing that I prefer the culture of Christianity over the alternatives, and that atheism as a worldview does not produce a culture that I want to live in. I think this is very interesting. These things have changed my mind about the value of cultural Christianity. People have a sense that they want to live in a world where morality is not a free-for-all, where objective truth is a thing, and that people aren't just slaves to their feelings and to their impressions. But we can only preserve these ideas through some version of cultural Christianity. So think of it like a family. If you have a couple of Christian parents and you're trying to raise children, what do you call those children? What do you call your family? Are you a Christian family? Well, maybe your children haven't made a full profession of faith yet. Maybe some of them were baptized at a young age, but their faith is growing. Some of them, their faith is shaky, and some of them walked away from the faith and now have returned to the faith. But you as a whole, as the parents, are a Christian family. You celebrate Christian holidays. You try to live a Christian ethos. And this is what we might compare it to as a Christian nation, that even if everybody in the nation isn't exactly a Christian yet, there's value in having an ethos and a culture that is guided by the principles and ethics of Christianity. So what do you do if you have friends and family that you know who are cultural Christians? You're pretty sure they're not real born again Christians. What do you do? Well, if they call themselves a Christian or a cultural Christian, encourage them to go to church. Encourage them to start reading the Bible. That's two very practical things you can do, because based on what I see on X each and every day, there is a time right now we are living in where people are more interested in finding out about historic Christian faith. They are kind of sick of the fly-by-night, fake plastic banana type of Christianity. They want to know the real thing. And so if you are a Christian who knows some things about the historic Christian faith and is connected in a deep way to the teaching of the apostles and preserving the faith, encourage your friends, go read the Bible. Go find a Bible-believing church. Investigate whether Christianity might actually be true. Hopefully, the Lord will use that in their lives to bring them into a real saving faith with Jesus Christ. Thanks for watching.